Welcome to the Camden County Chamber of Commerce's Get in Your Business podcast, your go-to source for all things small business in Camden County. I'm your host, Allison Shores, and each week we'll be diving into the heart of our community, bringing you inspiring interviews with local small business owners, insightful discussions on issues that matter, and the latest on events that could impact your business. Plus, don't miss out on our expert tips to help your business grow and thrive. Whether you're a budding entrepreneur or a seasoned business pro, this is the podcast for you. So let's get down to business. What's up, Camden County? Allison Shores, Camden County Chamber of Commerce, and you are catching the 16th episode of the Getting in Your Business podcast. Getting in Your Business podcast is made possible by our Chairman Circle sponsors, Comcast Business, Georgia Power Company, Hargray, Plug Power, St. Mary's DDA, TDS Telecom, and Ameris Bank. So thank you to all of our sponsors. Now let's get down to business. Today, I have somebody in the studio from Coastal Georgia Private Investigations. So Brian, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's talk first things first, kind of who you are, where you're from, and kind of how did you get into private investigating?
Well, I've been in Camden for about 5 years now.
5 years?
I was up in Brunswick, real general. I rode submarines. I was stationed in Hawaii. I was always interested in law enforcement. I was in law enforcement for almost 30 years down in Florida, Indian River County.
Okay.
That's Sebastian, Vero Beach, a little bit south of Cape Canaveral on the East Coast.
Okay.
Love that. Got my private investigation license down there while I still worked, but I stayed away from any kind of federal crimes or any kind of state crimes, anything like that.
Okay.
Came up to FLETC after I retired. Worked up at FLETC. I just retired from FLETC in December.
Okay.
I taught firearms, so my basic job function was teaching ATF, U.S. Marshals, Secret Service, Customs and Border.
Oh, wow.
They have their basic classes, advanced classes. Guys come in from all over the world. It's a big place. They have about 3,000 students a day going to classes. So
I didn't realize that.
yeah, it's huge. It used to be an old Navy base.
Okay.
They used to have dirigibles, like at the football games,
Huh.
and they flew them over the Atlantic looking for German submarines, and they actually found a few. So they kind of shut it down. That's the whole reason they have a Brunswick airport.
Okay. Oh.
So they shut it down, and then when 9/11 happened, it just cranked up, and that became Homeland Security. So all those agencies, including the Coast Guard, are part of Homeland Security.
Oh.
So I retired there in December. Started getting my license a few years before I had to get approval. I just like the different variety of things you can do. I'm retired. I'm terrible at golf. I really don't like fishing. I tried everything fishing.
I was about to say you don't like fishing. Man,
Well,
okay.
I know. I'm from outside of Cleveland originally, so I don't know if that's part of it, but I tried boats, the lake, new gear, books. I just, not the thing I...
And everything led back to private investigating.
Yeah, if you're not going to fish or golf, I guess you go to private
Yeah,
investigation.
I love that. Okay, so when I think private investigating, all I'm really thinking about is like, I don't know.
Tom Selleck.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think about like, maybe a private investigator would be for like a cheating spouse, or maybe, I don't know, something that if you're trying to figure out something with your neighbor because he put up some horrible fence, or I don't know, just all these things. That's the kind of, am I on the right path? Talking about private investigating? Is that some of what you do?
Yeah, there's a big variety. Some specialize in just certain things. Surveillance covers domestic situations, which could be a divorce, but also, child custody.
Oh, yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
I think some people think of both Florida and Georgia are quite alike when it comes to certain laws. And they're both no-fault state. So means you don't really have to have a reason to get a divorce.
Okay.
And some people take that to the point of it doesn't matter what people do, have an affair or whatever they do. The judge has discretion. So in Florida, and I believe in Georgia, there is discretion if certain things happen that are just, not tasteful. It could be an affair. More of a child custody, I deal with that more.
Yeah, I was going to say something with the kids.
Yeah, and again, sometimes the claims aren't really true, but sometimes there are a spouse, a partner that excessive drinking, could be drugs, leaving the kids alone. In Georgia, you have to be at least 14 years of age to babysit for at least 12 hours.
Okay.
So recently I worked a case with that. I put a GPS tracker on it. And even that's tricky because the laws are kind of what you can and can't do. But this vehicle was owned by the client. And I also had checked with the lawyer. Lawyer approved it and actually sent me a letter I could do it. And tractor, there was maybe some drug transactions happening, this and that. But then there's a period of time she was gone for maybe 16 hours. And the only people in the house were kids. The youngest one was about 12.
Okay.
So that was just information
Yeah.
I put together along with the other house where once a week the one spouse would go down there, spend about 20 minutes. So she had about a 45-minute to an hour drive. She would spend 20 minutes, then leave. And then next week, it'd be go down there for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what that was about, but I think I do. So I went down there. I used databases that most people can't use and found enough information where the person that lived there had kind of a history of dealing, possession. And again, it's not a smoking gun, but it was just kind of...
Well, honestly, like you can kind of look at the patterns that people have. So that's what you're really doing. You're investigating patterns and how they do things and maybe their schedules, those kinds of things, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a combination between like what the client wants.
Yeah.
And then I always ask if the client has an attorney.
Yeah.
And if they have the attorney, I need to have the ability to talk to them because really the attorney's the boss.
Because, you know, I always say that like females are like the best FBI like investigators. We will get online and look up all kinds of stuff, but you actually know like the legal ways to do things and the right ways to do things that will actually hold up in court.
And
correct?
Yeah, and I think that I was gonna bring that up. Like for private investigator, this license, I'm licensed in Georgia and Florida.
Yeah.
Not to get into fees or anything like that, but people wonder like, why is it cost or why this and that. I don't know if every investigator looks at it, but if you hired me, the moment you hired me, my anticipation is I'll go to court.
Yeah.
So everything gets documented. Every video, photograph has timestamp. There's a log of all my activities. So court presentation, that's kind of like the final line. That doesn't happen very often, but that's the concept that I look at.
Right.
If, let's say you hired me for something. That's what I got to be prepared for.
Yeah.
So with my past history with the Sheriff's Department, I was an investigator down there for, out of the over 19 years, probably 13 years. I worked major crime. So I'm used to testifying, depositions, kind of understand the system as far as that goes. As far as law enforcement, what should be done.
So you would work like with law enforcement? That's something you can...
No.
No?
Probably not. I mean, I would if they needed it.
If they needed it or asked,
Very seldom, I think, happens. Law enforcement has the case that's brought to them. They investigate it. They probably came up with something. I would probably be more for the defense where they're trying to look and see if maybe there's another thing. I go into it, I don't know. I mean, I don't think the majority of law enforcement really make bad arrests.
Yeah.
It could happen.
Yeah.
But there could be another witness out there that knows something. There could be another video or just some item out there. And the problem with an attorney is they can pull people in a deposition and talk to them, get a statement, but they can't go out and investigate.
Okay.
So if an attorney went out, says, oh, that neighbor over there, they might have saw something. They go out, they get a statement. Well, now they're put in a position where they're almost like they have to take the stand because they got the information or they collected the evidence. So that's one way an investigator could help.
Okay. So I know along with the private investigating that you are very much, you want people to know how to remain safe. And just from my conversations with you, you told me something really interesting, and I kind of want to go back to it because we weren't on air when we were talking about it. It's the, like how to, hotel rooms, for instance. you were telling me things that I can look for that will help me like remain safe, because that way I'm not recorded. Because nowadays I hear that you can be recorded from your smart TV and without even knowing, and just all these things. People can have different things set up. So what were you telling me about the hotel rooms and how I can kind of keep myself safe there?
Well, we talked about it, and down the road I'm going to do it in Fernandina Beach. It's just the real simple, and not to cry wolf, because I don't really think bad things always happen. But in today's world, you can go on Amazon or any place and get any kind of camera system that's extremely small and not expensive. So use the example for a hotel room. Somebody could put a camera in there that you wouldn't see, and it could be hooked up to the Wi-Fi of the hotel. You really wouldn't notice it. And the two places that would happen would be in the bedroom and the bathroom.
Okay.
So not to be paranoid, but like we talked about earlier, if I go to a hotel or bed and breakfast, I usually look it up online. I want to see what the room looks like. Most hotels don't change the furniture. I mean, they have 300 rooms. They're going to have 300 dressers, 300 lamps. And it's going to look pretty much the same.
Okay.
You could pull it up when you get there. Or you just take a picture of what the room looks like. You're going to look at it anyway. And when you get into the room, look around and see if it looks the same. And if something's out of place, like there's another alarm clock or another vase or just another item that really wasn't in your picture.
I've never even thought about like taking the picture of what it looks like online, and you know, I've never even thought about that. But that's okay.
And not to be paranoid either, because I
get it. But there's also a level of awareness that we need to have, and I think sometimes if you don't know what you're even looking for, how can you know how to protect yourself? You know,
and it happens more and more. I mean, in the old days, you really had to mount a camera that had a battery. And it would have been more expensive. It would have been bigger.
It would have been much bigger.
Harder to do. Now you can go in and you can have a bottle. Well, that top could have a camera on it. You could.
It's so crazy.
I have a pen with a tape recorder. I have a pen I put in here that has a video.
Yeah.
I have glasses that have a video and recorder on it.
That's
So there's so many things they come up with. But for a hotel room, it would be kind of easy to do, and it happens a lot. And law enforcement talks about a lot too, as far as their crime prevention. So just being aware of like the major rooms. Most of the cheaper cameras, you know, they're going to work off basically Wi-Fi. So, and we did this, I think, at a couple places. But one way to test that is we don't really have a remote. But if I wanted to go around this room, and I was just kind of wondering if there could be a camera somewhere. All you have to do is turn your phone on, turn it on the camera, so you're like ready to take a picture.
Right.
At home, when you use your remote control and you turn TV on, you don't see the red light.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Yeah.
But if you have this camera and you take it across a wall, maybe that bottle, if there is a camera in there, it's going to give off that red light.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so that's going to let you know.
And that's how you can know. Okay.
That's one way.
One way, yeah.
And then they have smaller devices that you can use. Those are kind of dicey. I mean, they do help. They do work. They're not expensive. If you want to have somebody come in and, let's say, you know, debug your room, your office, your business, and it's high profile, the people you would hire with that have equipment that costs like $10,000. You know, it's stuff that does way more than basic stuff that, you know, we can get. But that's just an easy way to go through some spaces.
Yeah.
And check that out. The other thing is look on your phone. When you go into a hotel, a lot of times you automatically hook up to the Wi-Fi. So that's normal. Plus you have maybe your things on here, your earbuds, whatever it is. But if you see several other Wi-Fis on there, what are they for?
Yeah.
That could be for this extra thing that's being put on and used on the Wi-Fi for the room.
Yeah, especially in the day of Airbnbs and stuff and VRBOs, like definitely need to be doing this kind of stuff, you know, because you can see the pictures and it's not just hotels. Okay, awesome. You know, I do worry about these. I've come to really love I'm going to say this wrong, but real estate agents or the realtors in our area. And I just worry about them sometimes, especially, you know, going off. Are there like, I think we need to discuss some of these group classes on keeping people safe and stuff. What are some things that you are looking at doing?
as far getting back to the PI part, which we'll get back to that too. Well, surveillance, I think that's kind of a natural. People think private investigator does.
Yeah.
And I have video cameras. They all have timestamp because that's
Yeah.
pretty much mandatory.
Yeah.
You have things with worker comp. People get injured, and they do get injured. And it's
Okay.
legit. Some people don't,
All right.
and they kind of take advantage of it. There's things like asset recovery. That could be in a divorce, but divorces are kind of set.
Okay.
It's based off your salary,
Mm-hmm.
my salary, and then child support gets worked into there. There's numbers that are already there, and the judge kind of plugs those in. You and I would fill out an asset form. So you probably know what I have. I know what you got.
Right.
Some cases, we got to go deeper. Maybe an attorney would hire me to find more assets. Where that comes more into play is I work for a company out of Texas, and what they do is they have people suing a company.
Okay.
Probably the best one to use, because I don't think it happens around here as much. I'll go down to Florida, is with roofing. People pay $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 for a roof, or they pay for it up front, and nothing happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if that happened,
What can people do?
well, one of the recourses is you try to maybe sue that company.
Okay.
But what you want to find out first, if anything, do they have any money?
Yeah.
I've done a couple in this area here, and my whole job was to go to the business and figure out what kind of assets they have. Means the building, then go to the courthouse, or I can do some of it online, see if they actually own the building, vehicles, trucks, make my way in, use a camera that I have in my pocket, see what kind of merchandise they have in it. There was one I did that had a business here and had one in Valdosta, so I went over to that. So I gathered all that stuff up, and then I sent it to the agent in Texas, and they're an asset recovery company. So they just kind of go out to different investigators in the areas and use them. So in some of those cases, in a lot of cases, I really don't know how things end.
Gotcha,
I give them my information,
You just have your piece of it.
but they go on for a long time.
Yeah.
So that part's kind of weird.
Well, that's good to know, because I don't know if people think about hiring private investigators when things like that happen. I know some things have happened in our community where, roofers didn't do things right. And honestly, I do want to say this. It wasn't our chamber members. Like, it actually wasn't businesses here in town. It was people coming from outside. They, got the cheapest price or whatever it was that caused them to use this roofer, or I don't even know if it was a roofer, but things like that, painting houses, just different jobs that you can have done at your house, and people getting, completely screwed over and not knowing, they'll call us. And unfortunately, I'm not the Business Betterment Bureau or whatever it's called. I'm not that, at the chamber, but I want to help them. So knowing that I can send them at least that's somewhere to start, because I know that they feel like they just got duped and they don't know where to go, what to do, who to talk to. So I think it's great to know that maybe they could start with you, and let's find out, like, is this even worth going after? Is it worth, all the things?
Yeah, and that's the big question. And the other part would be, contacting an attorney. Attorneys have the ability. There's only so many licenses that you're allowed to get these certain databases. And the database companies actually come out to my office, which that kind of threw me back. What do you mean?
Yeah.
They come out, they make sure that you can lock your computer, you can have filing cabinets to lock, you have security, you have this and that. So that was a little surprise to me because I hadn't done it before. Most attorneys' office, they have the ability to get systems too, and they use one. Most of them use one. I think it's called Clear.
Okay.
I use IDI Core, IRB, and there's several other ones, and I pay for them. But they give me up-to-date information, and then I compare two of them and to see if the information fits. And I had a list of a few, because there's nothing wrong with you doing it by yourself. And I'm sure you've probably done that, right?
Yes.
You want to check somebody out, and you go online.
Yeah, I see what I can find. But a lot of those services you have to pay for, and you don't even know what information you're even getting, or if you're even getting right information.
And that was kind of my point. Most of them start off, well, it's free. And then you get on there, and you, let's say I find you.
Yeah.
And I say, oh, good, I found her. So now they hit the next button. I'm still not paying anything.
Yeah.
But then my computer has to load. So I don't know if you've ever seen those before when something's coming up and you get that little line.
Yeah.
Well, in my mind, I'm going like, whoa, this thing is busting ass.
Right.
It's going through
It's going through everywhere, getting all the info. Yeah.
It gets done. Then it goes on to maybe your things like, Facebook, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then it has to do the same thing. Well, that might be for some, but I think that's a little bit more of a gimmick at the end of the thing, because that's when it's going to ask you for money.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking to myself, boy, that thing just worked really hard.
Yeah.
They got a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Or in turn, like the databases I use, if I put your name in there, but I put that you lived in Ohio, which you never have, right?
No, never lived in Ohio.
Lived in Ohio. So as soon as I put your information in there that I have and I hit enter, it's going to spit it out, not found. I put your name in there and I put in Camden County.
Yeah.
As soon as I hit the button, you're going to come up. Might be a couple other people, like if you have a really common name, come up also. But it's not a time delay because it's there. It's there.
Yeah, it's there. You don't have to wait.
So I kind of think that that's what they do with some of them. And then you get to the bottom and then they say they want this much money.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying that's wrong, but I question how updated it is. But, it might answer your questions.
Maybe, yeah.
But it's something to think about.
Yeah.
That's just like when you go on, I use databases and it kind of gives me a start. And then I'll go through county and state files.
Okay.
Most of those you can get online. Normally, like for a background check, I would go through the last 3 places you lived at.
Oh, wow.
And then best place you can go is to the county. State will have information. County has the most because it takes time to filter. And then the federal government has some stuff.
Yeah.
And there is no such thing, because that's kind of like a rumor, that there's a federal database.
Yeah, I would assume that there probably is.
There's not really.
No.
They have, like NCIC is Florida's database. Georgia, I can't think of the name of it offhand, but they have their database. And that pulls up information of location. One of the bigger things they need is like arrests, that kind of stuff. Every state has that. And then there are some combinations, but that's kind of a weird concept. There's not one big database for that. But there are some that you can use. But if you're ever looking up anything government, and I almost did this myself the other day, because we just got our property appraisals in.
Yeah.
Did you get yours in?
Everybody, I think, got theirs in when I was looking online.
Yeah, it's a pretty exciting day.
Yeah.
And I was wondering about it. I said, I don't know, didn't look right. So I went on and I found a site, and it looked like the right site. So I got onto it, very professional. I got down, and it wanted me to pay $1. I'm like, okay, $1. Because when you go to the court, sometimes you do have to pay for documents. I think if you do a background check up in New York, it's like $100.
Wow.
So, that's part of the pricing thing that a lot of people don't know. But I noticed at the very end there, it was a .com. So if you're going to look up anything from the city, anything from the state, county, or the state or federal, it's going to say .gov.
Yep.
You go .gov, it'll work.
Yes.
Then you got to kind of weigh the other things if it's really worthwhile or not.
Yeah.
Some of the other things we do, we talked about asset recovery. We do pre-employments.
Okay.
And so there's background checks. Usually if you do background check, you have to get approval from the person because you're hiring them for a job. That includes some things, excludes other things. Pre-employment is basically looking to see maybe where they worked last and to check with a criminal history.
Okay.
Which is a good idea. I know we have a lot of smaller businesses. They don't need to do it. OSHA mandates for some businesses to do it, and it's probably based off size and what they're doing. But it doesn't hurt to do that.
It never hurts to, just check on things.
And
trust but verify.
Because down the road, if it does turn out to be somebody bad, you can guarantee that's going to come up.
Oh, eventually.
You never check on the person. It's there. It's available.
Yeah.
Which gets into workplace violence, which kind of gets into the thing we were talking about, maybe doing some kind of either a class or workshop. What do you do with that? What do you do with workplace violence? What do you do with an employee that maybe still working or left, but they're making every effort to destroy your business? but you're not exactly sure how they're doing it, but you know
Yeah.
who's doing it. That's going through social media.
Yeah.
It's maybe going through them, doing database searches, finding information that maybe the employer could use to at least to get it stopped.
Yeah.
We talked to somebody earlier about like a restraining order. If somebody has a restraining order and they work in your business, I don't want to say it's mandatory and you don't have to get into the details, but it would be good for the people in the business to know what's going on with that.
Yeah.
And some people have security guards. If they had an idea what kind of car this person drove, what it was about, so that's not a bad thing to request.
Yeah.
Can't look at medical records. I can't find financial records. I could do it through a subpoena through an attorney.
Yeah.
A couple of different ways. But when I do a background check, it's so much information. It's everything about you, every place you've ever lived, every county you ever lived, all your relatives, your husband's relatives, your neighbors. If you've had any foreclosures, if you've had any businesses, if you had anything like that, every vehicle, and it gives you a tag number. I mean, there's so much information on that you can start to take that if you say you're looking for somebody, which I found a guy out in California, son, and the dad lived in Fernandina Beach. Hadn't seen the son for like 4 years. So not sure what the situation was. That's not my business.
Yeah.
But dug around and found him, and he was outside of Orange County, and he was in jail. He just got out, but he had a hearing coming up. So at that point, Dad knows where he's at. So now it's kind of up to them to
But you found him.
see what's going on. Right.
That's cool.
So,
Well, we have talked a lot today. I kind of want to know how can people get a hold of you? Because I know that's going to be the next question that I get is just how can they get a hold of you and if they need anything or just to find out more information about your services. Can you tell people how to get a hold of you?
Sure. There's a webpage. It's Coastal Georgia Private Investigations. This is my home location, but I also have an address up in Brunswick, so Glenn County. I go out to Wayne County. I go up to Darien, Fernandina Beach. And if you ever forget the name, Coastal Georgia Private Investigations, and you're in those areas, just look up Private Investigator near me. And you might see some other ones there, but besides, I think Dale Wiley is an investigator. He's a good guy. He's out of Waycross.
Okay.
There's really nobody with like boots on the ground.
Gotcha. Okay.
Most of them are like.
Well, we are glad you're here.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you in Camden County. This is awesome. Is there a phone number or anything, or are you good with that? I don't know if you want to give out that.
If you go to the website, you can find it there.
Okay.
And that should be easy. I have cards and things here. I have them in Fernandina Beach. Should have them in Brunswick before long. If the one thing I just wanted to bring up to
Of course, yeah. Go ahead.
In Florida, it's a no-fault state. Georgia's the same way. But that doesn't mean you can't use information to help your case, especially when it comes to custody and kids, stuff like that. And then one of the things we were talking about doing, like with safety, that could be for home safety, going on a trip, anything like that, which is one of the other things we talked about real quick is you've been in a hotel room, right?
Yes.
So you're in there and you lock all the doors.
Yep.
But the next day you leave. So besides the one that you bring across the top of the door, but you got the other two locked, all you do is turn the handle down, they all unlock. And that's a fire safety. So if there's a fire, everything unlocks from the inside.
Yeah.
So people know that they can take a real simple tool, go under the door, bring it up, hook that door, pull it down, even if you had two locks on the door.
I hadn't even thought about that.
Open up.
Yeah.
So what you do is you just take hit that like 5 times.
I know.
You take about you take about 5 like just wash towels or something.
Yeah.
And just stick it behind that handle.
Huh.
That way nobody can come up.
Nobody can do that. Okay.
And there's
That's very helpful information.
some other little things, and a lot of it's just being aware.
It is. It is about awareness.
People get caught up what they're doing, and they don't look at their surroundings. You know, both Florida and Georgia they follow the castle doctrine, which is we don't have a duty to retreat. So we kind of think of that in our house, right? Somebody comes to our house, I don't have to leave. Other states, they prefer you to try to leave, and that's probably not a bad idea. You know, your valuables and stuff, or what they are, your kids, your family, that's more important. But that also stands just in general. You're in a store, there's a confrontation, you don't have a duty to retreat, where some states you do. So even if you got in the confrontation, you could be possibly wrong. And then use of force, which that's what, 6 times I've hit that?
Yeah. Kanan's going to fire you after a minute.
I got to talk to the guy that put this together.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, like what is, we know of use of force from law enforcement and, you know, TV. Use of force, comes down to deadly force. Deadly force is that force that can cause death and or great bodily harm to yourself or another person.
Okay.
So that means, what's great bodily harm? Simply, that could be a broken arm.
Okay.
Or somebody's going to hit you with a club in the head.
Yeah.
You know, concussion, break a leg. That's, you know, it means a lot of things, and that's kind of common sense.
Yeah.
Part of that definition is also disfigurement.
Oh, wow.
And that, like when I usually teach an academy class up at FLETC, and most of this, they either have to have a degree or they have to be prior military to get into classes up there.
Yeah.
And when we get into that one, it gets a little touchy, because what is that? You know, hot boiling water on somebody's face.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a given.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, let's say, a light scar, and one of the examples, I'll use you two. You're in the academy, and I don't like either one of you. So it's the end of the academy. I think I can take Kanan because he's really made me mad. So I push him, and then he pushes me back. And I realize, wow, I am not going to win this. So I pick up this, which is a pin, but also could be an edged weapon.
Yeah.
Okay. By the time we got to court, that's what they would call this. So we wrestle around. I go like this. He's got a small cut. Okay. I ask most people in the class, is that disfigurement? Most of them are like, well, no, it's a guy. They wear shirts. You know, they got tattoos.
I mean, technically it is.
Well,
Maybe it's like, I don't know.
Well, no, and that's a good point, because
Alteration.
there is no answer.
Yeah.
And that's how we started out, because no matter what happens, you meet the statute, and every statute has elements, but then you're judged by other people.
Yeah.
Which could be a jury or just a judge. So who knows what they think. The other thing is, I didn't like you in the academy,
Yeah.
right? I couldn't beat him up.
Yeah.
You, I can
after,
take you, right?
you're coming after me.
So I'm done. It's almost done. So I push you, and you push me back even harder. Then I go, well, I can't beat her either. So I pull out a pin, which could be an edge weapon, do the exact same little cut, little scar. Is that disfigurement?
I mean,
90% would say yes.
technically it is. You're altering the appearance, so it's, I mean, you've disfigured that skin right there.
But then there's, and that really is all about is there's not an answer to it.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different perspective of what that means. But getting back to the castle law, you don't have a duty to retreat as long as you have a fear for your life. Somebody's making some kind of a gesture towards you, right? Can't be over the phone, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
And then you use the force that's reasonable. So think of that as...
But I think that's still like left up to whoever's making the judgment on it.
Well, it would
is.
be.
I mean...
Let's say Kane's pretty big.
Yeah.
He attacks you.
Yeah.
He starts running at you with a club. Could you shoot him? You can never say 100%, and I don't know if he's a good worker.
Yeah. He's amazing.
So,
but yeah.
I would say kind of, sort of, yeah, just for a discussion. So now you have a 10-year-old kid, but he has that same mindset. He wants to kill you with that bat or that.
Yeah.
That 100% the same. 100%. Is that justifiable? Probably, I would say no. But there is no exact to it.
Yeah.
So one of the things, if we could get groups that want to do it, and preferably in the chamber, and I don't know how that would even be set up, is just talk about that, because nobody really knows. We go by our instinct, and we're right. Like, is your car kind of like your house? Yes, it is. And what if somebody's beating on the car?
Yeah.
Can you do anything about it?
You should be able to.
Maybe, but probably not too much. What happens? What happens? They break the window, which shows the intent they want to get inside the car. Would that change it?
Yes.
Yep. Now it's kind of like the house.
Yeah.
Right. Guys outside the house talking crap. You think he really wants to break in, but he hasn't done it. Well, the conveyance, which would be a car, or it could be another building, that could be part of that too.
Well, listen, we got to save some of this for the class so people can learn. This has been great information. Thank you so much, Brian, from Coastal Georgia Private Investigations. I really appreciate your time today. Was there anything else before we got out of here?
Nope, just real quick. I'm retired from Florida. I'm retired from the federal government. So besides my daughter, I'm good. If anybody ever has a question, the biggest thing is confidentiality. You can call me about anything you want to. It's nobody's business. I have more of a problem my clients saying something that they find out about, but that's the heat of the moment, just whatever it is. But what anybody wants to ask me, that's totally confidential. And what we think is kind of maybe minor.
I was about to say irrelevant, kind of,
Well,
not completely irrelevant, but it's in their situation, our opinions on it are not your opinion.
And in their opinion, it's maybe one of the most important things in their life.
Yeah.
Losing a child because of a custody thing, or going through a divorce, or losing their business. Or I was going to say losing a cat, and I haven't done a lot of those, but I did go after Wally the gator. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
Look him up. Wally
I will.
He's famous.
Okay, I'll have to look it up.
So, but anyway, I haven't found him yet.
Okay.
So anyway, that's it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brian. Thank you guys for listening. If you have any more questions, please reach out to Brian with Coastal Georgia Private Investigations. Thank you guys for listening to the 16th episode of the Getting in Your Business podcast.